Today's case involves Iceland, the world's most peaceful country. A country so friendly, it has no army and no armed police. Icelanders depend on each other, value community, and help neighbors. Murder and crime doesn't come to mind when you think of such a country. The murder of 20-year-old Birna Brjánsdottir in 2017 shook Iceland's peace and serenity. Birna Brjánsdóttir was born in 1996 in Reykjavik, Iceland. She was everything to her divorced parents. Birna was gregarious and open-minded, according to friends. She was a wonderful friend and family member. Birna loved hip-hop and folk music. She loved laughing with her friends. In fact, her friends called her the Happy Pill because she uplifted everyone. Birna and her friend Maria worked in Hakup's fashion department. She was happy with her 20-year-old income in life. Birna went to a bar every Friday to relax and unwind after a long week, and this is exactly what she did on the night of January 13th, 2017. Birna played cards with friends at a pub on January 13th before going dancing in Reykjavik. Reykjavik's nightlife starts around midnight, and that Friday was no exception. Birna was the first to dance on stage. Her friends left around 2 a.m., but she wasn't ready to leave just yet. She was enjoying herself and planned to stay longer. Her friends weren't worried because Reykjavik is considered safe. She had her phone, and she was responsible. She could stay. Birna left the club after it closed at 5 a.m. and walked into her father's house. In Reykjavik, a woman walking alone is common because people trust each other. Her dad's house was a 30-minute walk away. CCTV captured her eating before heading home. Intoxicated, she stumbled and dropped coins. She walked down a narrow passage to the sea, and then she vanished. The next morning, Birna's friend and co-worker Maria was worried when Birna didn't come to work. She was punctual and never took unplanned days off. Maria called Birna but got her voicemail. Birna's phone was always on, so this was unusual. Maria contacted Birna's friends, with whom she went out the previous night. They thought Birna went to her father's house, but her father confirmed she wasn't there. Maria called Birna's distraught mother, Celia. Celia knew her daughter was independent and strong-willed, but also responsible, and she always kept her parents updated. Celia knew Birna, so she filed a missing persons report. Celia also posted on Facebook that her daughter hadn't returned from a night out and hadn't been heard from since. Dear friends, it's not like her that we can't reach her. Please share and let's find her. Celia. Birna remained silent as the post went viral in hours. Her mother checked on emergency services every hour, sometimes every half hour. Sunday morning, around 9 a.m., police had an update. Birna's phone pinged the cell tower in Hafnarfjörður, a port city 6 miles south of Reykjavik, at 5:50 a.m. the day before. Celia immediately rushed over there. She searched for her daughter. She was helped out by her family and Birna's friends, who were determined to find and bring Birna home. By Monday, 3 days after her disappearance, the story was everywhere in Iceland. This unusual case required Iceland's best detective, so they sent Gurmur Gurmarsson. Gurmur wasn't worried about this case when he arrived at the station because most missing young people in Iceland slept at a friend's house or hooked up with someone else. Due to its low crime rate and self-policing culture, Reykjavik has less CCTV than many European cities. Officers pieced together grainy footage from the morning of Birna's disappearance. CCTV showed her dropping money and tripping over a stranger outside the Lebowski bar, but there was no trace of Birna in the footage from the next camera, which was only a few blocks away. She had either taken the side road or climbed into a passing vehicle. Grimson and his colleagues re-examined the video and saw a Kia Rio traveling opposite Birna. It also passed Lebowski bar 30 seconds after she left. This was the police's only lead. The video quality was too low to identify the person or license plate. When police searched the National Vehicle Database, they found over 100 identical cars. Police held an unusual press conference Monday afternoon with no new leads to find Birna or the red car's driver. Celia accompanied Grimson. Celia told the media her daughter was smart, bilingual, and adventurous. The police believed that the press conference would lead to a breakthrough in the case, and it did. Two brothers in their 20s went to Hafnarfjörður to look for Birna. They headed for the port. They decided to take a look around and noticed a pair of black boots next to some pipes. Birna's outfit was detailed in the missing persons report. The men Googled Doc Martens and recognized a similarity to the footwear they had discovered, uploaded a photo on Facebook. Officers hurried to the port and instantly confirmed that the boots belonged to Birna. Grimson's officers combed through the CCTV footage on the dock. Saturday morning at 6 a.m., they saw a red Kia Rio enter the harbor. The car was parked next to the Greenland flag 65-meter Polar Nanook. An inebriated man exited the passenger door and proceeded slowly onto the ship. The car then drove away. This time, the license plate was readable. Thomas Moller Olsen, a 25-year-old Greenlandic employee, rented it, according to the company. He had returned the vehicle at lunchtime on Saturday and had since been rented to another family. The car was impounded by police. It was clear that it had recently been cleaned. The family's son, who sat in the back, had complained about the strong chemical odor. After closer inspection, officers also discovered evidence of blood on the back seat. It was sent to Sweden, along with Birna's DNA, to be forensically examined. The search was on for Thomas Olsen, and the man observed walking from the automobile to the ship on Saturday morning. Unfortunately, the boat had set out on Saturday afternoon with both guys on board. By Tuesday, the Polar Nanook was hundreds of miles away, fishing off the coast of Greenland. Thomas Olsen and his car companion, Nicola Olsen, had appeared to be their regular selves since leaving Iceland. But then, Thomas became visibly upset after receiving a message on his phone. A newspaper reporter in Reykjavik had uncovered a Facebook group used by the crew and sent a speculative message to Thomas, asking whether he knew who had rented the red Kia Rio after learning that the Polar Nanook had been linked to Birna's abduction. Thomas, who had turned pale, showed the journalist his message to the captain, who urged him not to worry if he hadn't done anything wrong. Grimson's team had trouble pursuing the two sailors. The longer his suspects were on board, the longer they had to align their stories and remove evidence. But Grimson received news that let him breathe a sigh of relief. The captain of the Polar Nanook had opted to go back to Iceland after reading online that the ship had been linked to the disappearance. He and his senior crew agreed to tell Thompson and Nicola that the engine had failed, necessitating the emergency turnaround. The captain also switched off the Wi-Fi, preventing the two men from seeing media news about the case. Early the next morning, as soon as the ship entered Icelandic territory, Iceland's elite counter-terror unit within the police, also known as the Viking Squad, boarded the ship and put Nicola and Thomas under arrest. The ship came back at around 11 p.m. on Wednesday night, and the two suspects were brought back into Icelandic soil in handcuffs. Swedish forensics confirmed Birna's blood was in the car, and the police questioned Nicola and Thomas immediately. Both men told police they didn't hurt Birna. They said they went to separate drinking spots and regrouped in the morning. Both men stated that two women had joined the car, though Nicola, who claimed to have fallen asleep on the way to Hafnarfjorna, had no recollection of them. Thomas informed police that after leaving Nicola off at the Polar Nanook, he parked at the end of the dock and climbed into the back of the tiny car with the two women, one of whom he claimed to have kissed. After about an hour, he said he left the women off at a nearby roundabout. Nicola's vagueness was reasonable to the police because they could see how inebriated he was from CCTV images at the harbor. However, Thomas's story was riddled with flaws. When he was observed driving away from the harbor at 7 a.m. on Saturday, his phone went off for 4 hours. The car was not observed again on surveillance until 11 a.m., when Thomas returned to the dock. He claimed to have slept in the car during that time, although the odometer indicated that he went on a long drive. Soon after, he was caught on camera buying Ajax, clothes, and plastic bags before cleaning his car. He stated he was cleaning vomit from the back seat. After the rental car was seized and the blood sample was taken for testing, a forensics officer sprayed the interior with luminol, a chemical that glows bright blue when it comes in contact with bloodstains, even if they are clean and invisible to the naked eye. The car lit up, and the evidence against him was stacking up. When searching the ship, the police found a driver's license in the bin. It belonged to Birna. They also found hashish on board with a street value of £1.4 million. A week after Birna disappeared, Iceland launched its largest search operation. Despite being a small country, ISAR sent 835 volunteers and 87 vehicles. Islanders eagerly awaited updates. It was not long before the police found what they were looking for. a Coast Guard helicopter noticed something floating in the water near a lighthouse. It was the body of Birna. Grief replaced shock. Greenland, Denmark, and all of Iceland's major cities held memorials. Thousands marched down Reykjavik's Lagervagar, placing candles and flowers at Birna's disappearance site. 2,000 mourners attended her funeral at Iceland's largest church. Icelanders never thought something like this could happen to them. An autopsy revealed blunt force trauma to the head and strangulation, but the official cause of death was ruled as drowning. She was alive when she was thrown into the sea. Grimson and the team examined the evidence in front of them and found no link between Birna's murder and Nicola. Nicola was released after 2 weeks in custody and hours of interrogation. Despite the evidence against him, Thomas refused to confess, maintaining the same story in 9 police interviews. Police had no idea why Birna got into his car on Lagervagar, let alone why he murdered her. Thomas was charged with murder and drug possession on March 30th, 2017. His DNA had been detected on the laces of one of Birna's boots, and Norwegian forensic scientists had identified his fingerprint on her driver's license before his trial began in August. During the trial, Thomas confessed to drug possession, but not murder. He told an entirely different story in a quiet voice and without emotion. There was only one girl in the car now, Birna, who he alleged had abruptly climbed into the Kia Rio as he sped along Lagervagar. Thomas stated that he had stopped the car and gone out to use the restroom at Hafnarfjörðina, at which point Nicola drove away with Birna, returning sometime later without her to pick him up. To the surprise of everyone in court, Thomas was attempting to pin the murder on his crewmate. But Thomas was convicted of both charges and sentenced to 19 years in jail by the 3 judges just 1 month later. This case gives us a chilling reminder that even in the most peaceful of countries, criminals and wrongdoers exist. The case also made people question whether Iceland is all that safe after all. As one journalist puts it, there was no purpose in this. It makes me crazy when people talk about the country coming together. It's a fantasy. This beautiful country in the frozen north where everybody comes together. I don't think it's healthy for Iceland to think of itself as special in that way.